Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about Broadway Limited's new release, their SD45. It comes in a variety of liveries, and I've got the demonstrator livery. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. Stick around for that. I hope it helps you somehow, particularly if you're on the fence about this. Maybe I could save you money, or I can give you a justification to purchase more of them. I also have a new feature that I hope you take the time to watch. It's called Ask the Professor, Choose the Video, and I'm starting to I won't be able to do a ton of them, but I'll try to answer questions I see down in the comments about things that you see on my layout. And if you're interested, I will make a video about those things, and I'm going to let you vote, and I will try to have the video you vote on up as quickly as possible. I don't want to bog down this section with that, but hopefully you'll enjoy that also. So I will be back in just a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Petsistence First Aid Kits. If you're like me, you love your pet. You take them with you if you can. You certainly care for them a ton at home. But just remember that no matter where you are your pet's first responder. Like it or not, you are your pet's first line of care and perhaps only line of care. They depend on you to make sure that they stay happy and healthy, and the people at Petsistence have made sure to create a product that will help you do just that. With the help of veterinarians, the Petsistence First Aid Kit is a 60-plus piece first aid kit that comes in this handy carrying case. It's a soft carrying case that is meant to be as light as possible. The entire thing fits easily in your car or in any kind of suitcase you're going to use during your travels. The kit contains many bandages and wraps of all sizes for your pet, and it also contains things such as cleaning solution, Q-tips, combs, lancets, and a dog whistle. Here's a list of all the things included with the kit, and hopefully you will find it useful as I have. Remember, Petsistence for the first line of defense for your pet. Okay, so why the SD45? Well, firstly, the 40 series and all of its constructions is my favorites, especially the SD40-2. But one of the reasons why I purchased this, even though I've had some issues with Broadway Limited, is because of this. This is a shell that I've been working. It's an Athearn shell, and I was going to mate it with a Bachmann chassis. And they actually fit together pretty well for what it's worth. So I thought it would be a pretty good idea to put these two things together. Fair enough. And after about a year and a half of working on this and planning to work on this, this is how far I've gotten. So, yep, the best laid plans of mice and men, right? Actually, I think it would have gone pretty well, but in order to save myself the sunk cost and just not worry about it anymore, I'm like, you know what, if they're going to go ahead and come out with this thing, I'll just buy this thing. I don't need two of them. I don't need to still convert the other one. I just like the paint scheme. And they had ones at Burlington Northern, but I actually am not a huge fan of the stripes. I like the BN up front. So I went ahead and got this one, and I noticed right off the bat that, hey, even though I've had some issues lately with, I think, lighting functions that are a little bit difficult for me when I'm just running it, Broadway Limited put everything by default in F1. So thank goodness for that. All this stuff looks pretty standard. No problem there. I got a serious question. Does anybody actually use these? And I'm not going to be mean to you or anything, I promise. I really want to know, does anyone use these chatter and lumber mill sounds and all this stuff? I honestly want to know. So please let me know in the comments if anyone enjoys those. And it's cool if you do, don't get me wrong. I really want to know. All right, the rest of this looks like pretty standard fare. If you want to change the lighting function so that only some comments sometimes use the professional. Oh, look, tasty treat. That's cool. I'll eat that later. All right, so here it is. Looks exactly like the shell that I've been working with. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Now, if you've been paying attention to me, I'm not a huge stickler. I'm not a rivet counter by any stretch. I do like things to look nice and at least look reasonably like the prototype. but I don't stress over whether something is a, 62R55 bolt versus a 72R75A bolt. I don't care about those things, but if we walk around here, it looks like, one thing I noticed about this model is there are not a lot of separately added part. If you look, the grill up there is just molded in. There is a really clear line, right? Because that piece up there has to be separately molded because I don't think it'll come out of the mold properly, and I'll take that off. Railings seem pretty nice, pretty standard Broadway limited fare. They're nice and thin, but they also scare me a little bit. Sometimes they seem a little bit fragile, but maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. But I've have a couple other Broadway limited diesels, and it seems like they're kind of easy to mess up. All right, going around separate grab irons, no problem. But I think what bothers me, if we want to call it that, is just these are not separately applied grills or grates. You can't see through them. I'm not really sure, right, what's going on. And again, for those of you that are really, really into SD45s, hopefully this will give you some sense of what you're going to purchase. If you want this or not, you can decide if the cost to detail ratio is worth it. Nice details there on the running boards. Separately applied fans, that's something my Athearn shell certainly doesn't have. Those look pretty good, but I don't know why they kind of skimped out on the grates. Why didn't they make those separately applied? Basically we're just sort of half a step above an Athearn shell. If we remove this, this is kind of nice. All of the electronic components are available, but then again, you can see that line pretty easily. Let's see, the decoder reset is right there. That's pretty nice because goodness knows with Paragon, you have to utilize that feature once in a while. Strangely, it looks like there would have actually been enough room to put a smoke unit in here if they wanted to. Of course, then again, yeah, look at, man, there's a big gap there. I think they could have done it if it's something they really wanted to do, but it's obvious they didn't want to do that. Walking around here, yeah, it's interesting. It's nice, it's nice and intricate, but not as intricate as it could be or maybe should be. All right, let's take a look at some of the other non-visual factors here, non-aesthetic factors. Let's go ahead and weigh this and see what we have. Put it up there. 15.1 ounces. It does seem kind of light. When I picked it up, it seemed kind of light. And 15.1 ounces is also 15.1 ounces in pounds. It's just under 430 grams for everybody else in the world. Not too sure. And there are no traction tires. So you've got to hope that less than 1 pound adheres as much as you want it to. So, all right, I just want to take a look at this Athearn Genesis F45. And it's a lot heavier. And these have been really good runners. And I think, they're superior in details, but I'm not sure. It seemed like a lot of extra space in that chassis. Why didn't they utilize it? Okay. Let's take the closest thing I have to this SDP45. Let's weigh it. Oh yeah, 19.4 again. It's over a pound. Yeah, just seems like they could have made it a little heavier, which would have helped adhesion quite a bit. The couplers, yeah, a tad high. They're big though, but the question is, man, do they really need this long of a coupler? That bar is really sticking out far. It's really surprising. It looks a little bastardized to me. That's not what the real one looks like, right? All right, the coupler on the front, it's pretty much dead on, and it doesn't have an angle or a tilt like some of the other ones, but doggone it, that's a long shank. Let's do a rundown of these lighting functions for you. And like I said, all of them, at least right out of the box, are mapped into F0. But while it's stopped, you'll have the cab lights on. That'll illuminate the guys. As you move it forward, it'll eventually turn off. When you stop it, it'll come back on. Pretty typical Broadway limited fare. Same thing when you back it up. So when you turn on F0, you get the headlight. And when you back it up, the marking lights and the number boards stay on. There goes the cab light. So it's something to think about. Yes, I don't know if that's standard or not. When you back up, the number boards and the marking lamps stay on, but either way, that's what you're gonna get unless you change that. If you look at it from the rear, you press F1 and it's going forward. The number boards and the marking lights also light up. And when you flip it around, here, we'll flip it around as soon as it comes to a stop, the reverse light will come on. The long hood light, I guess, will come on, and the number boards and marking lamps stay on. You can change all this through advanced lighting, but this is the way it is out of the box. Okay, it's got a built-in capacitor, and it needs one. We're gonna talk about this in a second, but Broadway limited pickups are the absolute worst in the industry. So let's stop it. There we go, 2 seconds, just about 2 seconds. That should be plenty, and it's going to need them. I don't know why Broadway Limited can't make good pickups, but before we get into that, let's take a look at the crawl. Let me do 1 crack out of 128. This is geared pretty low. Because of that, it's relatively slow, a little bit worse than Lock Sound, a little bit better than Tsunami out of the box. Again, you can decide if this is okay for you. I didn't touch anything. I didn't make any adjustments. This is broken in and straight out of the box. So it has had about an hour of run-in time, and this is the crawl. Pretty smooth. The top speed isn't so top because of this low gearing, but it does help the low speed, which isn't great. I kind of like to have extremely low speed crawls, but it's good enough. Let's take a look at the pulling power, and I'm going to try this for the first time. I have my luggage scale, my bow scale, and we will see as we power this up here. Just hold that down just in case it starts slipping, and we'll keep ramping up the speed a little bit. 2.4 ounces. Going to get, you know what? I started thinking about it. I don't know what this means in practical terms, but maybe you do. So I will do this for you. And if you know what 3.2 ounces means in practical terms, good on you. I hope you can use this information somehow. So let's go ahead and do this in practical terms. And what's cool is I made that running video with all of my chocolate cars, and it's still in the track, and this cannot pull them. It took 2 Bachmann locomotives to pull it, but this one locomotive cannot pull the chocolatey goodness. And there is one car in there to convert from the knuckle coupler to the horn hook one, so there is 1 car added. So let's pull 5 cars out, and nope, it's gonna do it. No, even with 5 cars out, it's not going to do it. It's not going to pull this consist. So let's pull 5 cars out and try it. It's gonna do it. It's doing it. It is doing it. Okay, so there we go. I removed 10 cars from the consist, and let's see how many that equals in the end here. So between the ounces that it pulls and the amount of cars, maybe this will help you determine whether this is for you. Let's see what we have here. 15 total, whatever that means for you. Well, 15 isn't bad, right? Well, I don't know. It's not great, but it's not bad. Maybe it's the practical limit anyway, but you know what? I'm really curious as to what the potential is for the heavier locomotive. So let's go ahead and plop the Athearn Genesis SDP45 down on the track. Now it is a longer locomotive, and that may make a difference. It's certainly heavier. Let's see if it can pull the same 15 cars. Didn't learn much from that. Looked like it had no problems whatsoever. So let's go ahead and put 5 of the cars back in that we pulled out earlier. So pop in the 5 cars, and let's see how that goes. Will it beat the Broadway Limited? Yep, no problem. No problem at all. It easily pulls the 5 more cars that the Broadway Limited couldn't. Well, let's put them all back in. Let's put the next 5 back in to complete the train. We will see if it can pull all the cars that the 2 Bachmanns pulled in this consist. So if it does, I think we've already proven that at least the weight is superior here. There's no traction tires on this, so it has to be the weight. And there it goes. It's pulling it. It's trying to tell if it's struggling or not. Yeah, you know what? It does start to slip on the curves. I have about 33 and a third inch curves, and it is starting to slip, but it's pulling the whole train. It's pulling the whole chocolatey goodness, chocolate plus 1 train. So yeah, the weight or the lack of weight of the Broadway Limited does make it suffer a little bit. Bummer. And they had so much space in there. I don't know why they didn't use it to gain some adhesion. It couldn't have been that much more expensive to throw some more metal in there, or at least put a smoke unit in there if you're going to have all that. Okay, here's the part I always clench up with Broadway Limited. Are we going to have one that sounds relatively decent in terms of its acoustics, like the Blue Goose, or are we going to have another EA/EB just horrible tank job here? Let's go ahead and run through them. Okay, here we go. So that should be the bell, but it should be the bell, but you have to have the engine on to use the bell and a horn? Why wouldn't they allow you to do this by default? All right, well, let's start it then. Part of the reason I love the 40 series so much is because I just love the way the engines sound. So let's compare this one to Soundtracks, which does a great job. ESU also does a great job. They're about equivalent to me. So let's see how they compare. Okay, it's not the same. It's not as good, but it's not horrifically bad. In fact, I don't know. It's probably about a 6.5 out of 10. Not bad. Could be better. Okay, I alluded to this earlier, but I have no idea why Broadway Limited, why their pickups are just utterly garbage. And a lot of you may not have this problem if you have powered points, whatever, but Broadway Limited is the worst. And you can't tell, but I kind of can, that these are slowing down a little bit when it hits my points. But I've got one where I've got the speed just right so that you can hear the thing go onto the capacitor, and then when it's happy again, it goes back onto main power. I've just never seen a company have such consistently bad pickups. Just utter garbage. I don't know why they can't get this right. I need to fill out another survey because I think I forgot to mention this. I think a lot of you are probably starting to wonder why I purchase anything from Broadway Limited anymore, and I've gone over that in another video, but they do produce a product that I like, at least aesthetically speaking. I have hope, I guess, that they're going to be able to match their variety with technical competency pretty soon. That's my hope anyway. And remember, criticism isn't necessarily an indication of hate. And plus, if I can help you in any way, and I really mean that, I like helping people if I can. If this helps you, maybe it helps you save some money if you don't want this, or it helps you buy more if you want more of them, that's fine with me. All right, overall, it's just kind of a ho-hum model. It's just kind of meh. Since I don't drink, I'm a teetotaler, I can't relate to the idiom, but I guess I don't have a Coca-Cola taste in my mouth, but I don't have a cough syrup taste in my mouth either. I think, it's like a half step or maybe a step above my Athearn shell. It does have some separately applied parts, but they really miss some opportunities to make this a clear standout. Just too many molded parts when I think they could have done better and actually had some separately applied parts, which would have made this look really top-notch. The model's just way too light. It's under a pound, and it obviously suffers because of that. There's plenty of room in there to put more weight in. I'm not sure why they didn't. Maybe they thought about putting a smoke unit in there and then didn't, but just a ton of space that they could have used for weight. So another missed opportunity. It's just too light. I'm not worried because I'm not going to run this by itself. I have other models which I'll bring out of the closet and I'll show all of you. But I'm going to run those with this, and they're heavier, but it's just too light. The sounds are okay. You've heard them. I've compared them to Soundtracks, and actually I've compared them to lock sounds since the SD45 uses lock sound. They're okay. They're not great, but they're not as horrible as some of their others. So it's okay. The acoustics in this are all right. There is some crackling and popping. There's a little bit of overdriving and clipping, but overall, it's not horrible. So again, everything is just sort of middling with this model, and the sound is no different. Am I right about those shanks being super long? Is it just me? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Tell me down in the comments. I don't know. Shanks just look way too darn long. I don't know why they couldn't have put some shorter. Maybe, I don't know. What's with the long shanked couplers? It just looks kind of bastardized and wrong to me. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. Like usual, it has garbage pickups. I don't know why they can't get their pickups right. Doesn't make any sense to me. Other companies have been doing pickups for 30 years that work just fine. if I run a lot of my other models at literally a crawl, like a 5 tie per minute crawl, they'll go over my unpowered points just fine. This may not matter to you if you have good tracks with powered points, but not everyone has those, obviously. I don't have a permanent layout, so I'm using temporary track, and the model's performance suffers because of Broadway Limited's utter garbage pickups. I don't know why they can't get this right. It's really obnoxious. Alrighty, hopefully this helped you somehow. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I appreciate you tuning in. Now please stay, because I'm going to have my first Ask the Professor, and I will answer. So please stick around for that. And if you stick towards the end, I will have a running session of this. Curious to see what single-digit % of people will watch the running session of this. So appreciate it. Happy model railroading. And I'm curious about your responses to my questions here. And I'm also very curious to see how you respond to the next section. So please stick around and help me choose one of my next videos. Hopefully whatever you help me choose, I'll have up within a week and a half, no more. So here we go with that. Let's get to this episode's Ask the Professor, Choose the Topic, where you ask me the questions and I'll let you choose the topic of a near future video. Well, what's kind of interesting is an eagle-eyed viewer noticed from the very quick clips that went by in my intro, 3 trains he wanted to know more about, and I'm always happy to answer questions. This person did a pretty good job on figuring out what this was. It's actually not a D51, it's the successor. It's a D52, which is basically the same, just slightly larger. It's at least from the 1970s, if not earlier, and I got it at an estate sale, and it looked like it had never been used. I don't think it was run, if hardly ever. It's a little bit sad. I think maybe the metal underneath is corroding a little bit and interacting with the paint some, and so it's not super glossy, but then again, you know, who knows. I did DCC this, and so it's running. I don't have the passenger consist built yet, so I haven't run it very much, but DCC'd pretty well. It's just a little bit noisy because it's old, but other than that, yeah, it's a pretty fun model. Next one he noticed is this IHC semi-streamline Southern Tennessean, and I've owned 2 of these other semi-streamlines, the Mercury and a Southern Pacific, and they're both just ugly. I moved them on. This one I purchased from a guy who's like, I don't know, it was my dad's. I don't think he ever ran it, so I don't know what kind of shape it's in. So I went ahead and bought it for next to nothing, and I tried it out. And as soon as I opened the box, I realized it was brand new. It had never touched a track ever. I was going to use it, and I try it, fix it, and run it, but it ran like butter straight out of the box. It was great. So I think on top of that, I kind of actually like the way this one looks. There's something about the paint job. It seems to mesh better with the body than the other ones. So I'm going to keep it and DCC it. And I've got some other coaches on the way for it, but I do like it. Next model that he noticed was this Chinese Fuxing CR400, the CRH version, and it is made by Sino Models. It's a Chinese train made by a Chinese company. But as I noted in my first Misery Index video, the drive system broke on it, so I had to send it back to China for repairs. But this is an incredibly beautiful model, and I can't wait to get it back so that I can show it off to everybody. Just incredibly detailed, beautiful model. XRCoon42 asked if I've DCC'd any Rivarossi models, and I think he may mean Steam specifically. I do actually have a video on how to convert a Rivarossi vertical motors, but yes, I have done Steam, and that is this. I don't think this needs any introduction. It's one of their more premier models, and it is hard not to like, that's for sure. It took a little bit of doing. I mean, it wasn't difficult from the technical sense, but the model fought me a little bit, particularly the motor, and I ended up finally just replacing it. It unfortunately has the pulling power of a Cheerio bouncing down a carpeted staircase, but here it's doing okay, but once it hits the curbs, it's not so great. I am going to, or at least I plan to detail this in another video, but I am going to convert that Rivarossi Chicago and Alton Heavy Pacific that you saw the other day. That seems to have slightly more pulling power, so let's see how it goes, but I think it'll do pretty well. So how about this? I've got to put these in order as far as what I'm going to do. So why don't y'all help me choose the topic? So just, vote down in the comments. Do you want me to DCC first that Tennessean? Do you want me to first do the Chicago and Alton? Or do you want me to do a short line history of the D52? Or do you want me to do something else? And if you look on my Instagram, you'll see a lot of stuff that you don't see here because it doesn't take as long to get things up on Instagram. If you see something there you want to know more about, put it down in the comments. And if enough people say, hey, yeah, I want to see that, I'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching again. Get ready for the running session. I hope you stick around for that. If not, someday I'll put this up as a separate video. But take care. Talk to you later. Thanks again.